are welcome to share your story and inspire others. I am Fiona Brennan, your host. I'm a personal success coach, founder of Inspire Action Success, and here in conjunction with Global M.A.P.S events, I share with you beautiful stories from heart-centered entrepreneurs around the globe. This show is for entertainment purpose only, and the views of our guests are not necessarily the views of Inspire Action Success or M.A.P.S Global events. Enjoy. Hey everybody, welcome back to Share Your Story and Inspire Others. And today I am joined by the wonderful Jacqui Taaffe. Jacqui is all the way from Drogheda in County Louth in Ireland, the opposite end of the country from myself. Jacqui, absolutely delighted to have you here with me today chatting. Thank you.
Fiona, thank you so much for having me and asking me to come.
Excellent. So Jacqui, you are a therapist and life coach, empowerment coach, and you're also an author of a wonderful book called Inspire, Heal, Empower, which is all about your story, your personal story, challenges of growth and resilience, and leading you to where you are here today. So well done on that book. And I believe it's about a year since you launched it. Is that correct?
Yes, it was launched on the 18th of February 21.
Fantastic. Okay, great. So this timing is great now to be chatting to you. So listen, for the purposes of this, to kick off, because we share, I suppose, stories that we have gone through, life challenges ourselves, and what has led us to where we are now, and I suppose our learnings and growth and nuggets that we can pass on to inspire other people. So Jacqui, would you take us back maybe to I suppose earlier years, maybe your childhood, and where kind of things, how life was for you as a girl growing up, and what happened, I suppose, after that?
I suppose really to start is that today we're going to talk a little bit why I wrote the book, Inspire, Heal and Empower. A true story of finding one's voice, breaking the silence and trusting one's knowing. And I suppose that was written in 2020. And it wouldn't have been written, or I wouldn't have come to a place in my life, in my head and in my heart, to do the journal entries I did. And then as a consequence, they no longer were journal entries, they became the book, because I felt in my heart it had to be shared. But I couldn't have done that if I hadn't have done the work on myself, if I hadn't have done, if I hadn't have become a life and mind coach, if I hadn't have become a therapist. So I would say, when I talk to anybody, you know, the first relationship, or the most important relationship you'll ever have, is with yourself. And when you become an authority on yourself, when you become curious about yourself, and you become curious in what's sitting within you that's frustrating you, what's sitting within you that's making you feel small, what's sitting within you that's making you hugely unhappy. And when you become curious and start to identify that and look at that and embrace it and own it, well, then the power of your voice arrives, and the power then to be able to look at something, reflect upon it, and really then the realization for me is that, you know, what happened to me in 1984 was nothing to do with me. So I could write the book in 2020, and I could go back with what I know now and go back to 1984 when I was 15 years old, and I had fallen down the stairs as a very small child, at the age of 3.5, and I had actually loosened the muscle in the back of my eye because I'd hit the door so hard, and within 2-3 weeks my eye was rolling, right? My mum noticed it, and I had to wear glasses. And then fast forward to when I was 15, I wanted my eye fixed. I just wanted my eye straightened. And so I went in to have it straightened, and within 2 hours of admittance to the hospital, a doctor presented themselves to me in my semi-private room and proceeded to do an internal examination and a breast check on me, which is, they're the words you would call it, but it was a sexual assault, because there was no need to do an internal examination on me or a breast check for an eye operation. And at the time, and I was only 15, I did ask that. I didn't understand why that had to be done, but he said it had to be done, and it was done. So when I found myself in 2020 journaling, the pandemic, the lockdown, was just 2-3 months before we fully locked down in March. And the journal entries happened, and the book started to spill from me, is the only word for it. And I found myself that I could start to look at this, and most importantly, that not only could I look at it, I could start to talk about it. And the power of that, the power of your voice, to voice it, to be able to say, you know what, this happened to me and it shouldn't have happened to me. And the realization and the recognition that it not only happened to me, but it didn't belong to me. And that the person who came in and interrupted, as I say, or interfered with me, that was their stuff. So that kind of realization, giving it back, handing it back, and not carrying it anymore, not carrying, and I talk about this in the book, not carrying shame, because shame really makes people feel small. It limits people in huge ways because they carry shame, we hide shame because we're fearful that somebody else might think different of us. And so shame really can keep us tiny and small and really stop us from stepping into who we truly are, being our raw, authentic selves, and being okay with that, and being able to say, you know what, this happened, and that's okay. So, you know, being able to let go of the shame and being able to voice it and to say no and to share it, because I know I'm not alone in this journey. I know that people have found themselves in medical settings, either in hospitals or other medical settings, and they felt uncomfortable or at unease because something may have happened. And the likelihood is if they felt that way, it did happen. And so the book really is about saying, this happened, and I want to tell people it happened so I can, if others can find it and read it and say, do you know what? I went around for years doubting myself, even though I knew in my heart it was fundamentally wrong. You question yourself. You say, maybe that was more about me than it was about the examination. Why am I feeling like that? And so there's a huge amount of questioning and doubting going on, and silencing, and being obedient to that silence, to being very, you're being very compliant, being in the quietness of it all. So that's what the book's about. And it's about, the tools that I've used, about this piece of really, going back inside oneself, self-reflecting, looking at it, because it's not my story. It's whoever did that to me, that's their story. I define and I write my story. And I say that in the book.
Yeah. That's such a powerful statement, though, isn't it? It's not your story. It's their story. To come to that realization that you've been carrying it for a number of decades as your story.
It wasn't even not carried as my story. It was carried as shame. So shame's very limiting. Because, what does shame do? Well, okay, I'm ashamed. If somebody else finds out this happened to me, they think less of me. And so you go through all this process of hiding and keeping yourself small. And shame is hugely damaging to many people in many ways for many other reasons. And, it's like you're secretly hiding, as I say in the book, secretly hiding all my emotions and not showing up as my really, really true self, because this part of me is hidden because I'm ashamed to say, you know what, that happened to me. And, the moment you express it and you say it and you say, you know what, no, I'm okay to say this. Freedom comes with that. And the more you speak, I notice, the stronger the voice becomes. So if you look at my videos prior to this, when I first said, I was going to do this and write the book, I would have never believed I could have written a book. And my voice is quite different. It's got stronger, and I can see that, and I can see that in me, and I can see even my expressions and how I am and what I do. Everything becomes a little bit stronger. You become a little bit more grounded, and to think that so many might be going around carrying that when it doesn't belong to them. Well, then I've got to tell them, look, this is my story. Take what you want from it, but what happened to them doesn't belong to them. It's up to the person that they did it to,
Yes. Yeah. What was it that led you to start journaling? Well, did you start just journaling in 2020, or were you journaling always before that and it was a matter of maybe just continuing the journey? What was the point that led you to that piece?
I just journaled.
Yeah.
Anyway, because I would suggest and recommend, is doing the work that I do, to journal, for people to take whatever's going on in our heads out of our heads and onto paper, because something happens when we take it from our heads and onto paper and we look back at it, because it's not ours and now we've separated from us. And something powerful happens in that, because you see it from another perspective, obviously, because it's not in here anymore and it's over there. And now you're looking at it, and now you can really observe it and watch it and say, does that really belong to me? And so I love that piece. So journaling would have been part of what I do. The journaling of the book really started late December 19. And then all of a sudden it was like,
what was the point? Did you just get the sensation to start specifically writing a lot more intensely about it?
I never ever, you see, you know, in my back of my mind, this would come up and appear every so often. So I'm not going around talking about this, what happened to me, but every so often it comes up. I question myself. I say, you know what? Was that right? Should that have happened to me? And this always goes on. And because I've been working with the Dignity for Patients, which I talk about in the book,
yeah,
since 2014, you know, I was working with Bernadette Sullivan, and they are advocates for people who had inappropriate medical examinations done on them. So I was doing work with Bernadette. And so I was on this gradual journey of looking
were you helping other people at that point?
You were not around this.
Or you were actually,
No, not around this. I'm working now as a life and mind coach stuff, but I'm not sharing what happened to me. What happened to me, I shared publicly when I wrote the book. Bernadette knew, obviously, and Dignity for Patients knew. I had reported it to the guards, or as they call it in the UK or America, the police. And that was back in 2014. But it's like you're working at it, you're tipping away at it, and the more you're working at it, you're getting clearer, you're going back, you're reflecting. It is this piece of self-reflection, curiosity, and questioning. And what's it's not odd. This is obviously what happens. Certain things then start to reveal themselves that weren't revealed before. And these are definitely protection mechanisms that we have to deal with what happened to us at that time. And all of that started to spill. And it came out in journal entries. And the more it came out, you know, it's coming out, these journal entries are coming out, and then it would stop, and it might stop for a week. And then it'd start again. And there was no set time. There was no set method. There was no set way. You know, I didn't, I'm going to do. And all of a sudden I ended up with all these piles and piles of paper. And then from nowhere came, you know, this is a book, Jacqui. You know, this has to be a book. And I'm going, yeah, this can't be a book. And even when I said to my husband, I think this is a book, he went, what? I think, and he always says to me, regardless of what I decide to do, look, whatever you have to do, you do, and I'll support you. And he does. He silently just does. I'm lucky to have him like that. But so that's how it's the book, you know. And then I found somebody to work with closely, Heather Shields, on it, and Heather and me worked then. We set the thing, we worked our target, we worked the goal, and we got it to where it was to be published back in February. So it was written within a year and a bit.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And so go back a bit to when you were 15 and the whole event happened, and you would have come home from that hospital. How did you deal with that as a 15-year-old? Having, you know, then the eye operation actually took place, whatever, a number of hours later, but you're brought home, and you're going like, what just happened?
Yeah, and that's what you are going like, because on reflection, when you look back, it's obviously shock, because you're still trying to work it out. And then within 12 hours of that happening to me, I'm down, I'm under anesthetic, I'm having my eye taken out, straightened back in, then I'm in recovery. So you're like a rabbit caught in headlights, and you're quite stunned, and you've got this thing too, is, okay, why am I reacting like that? Why am I having this reaction to an examination?
Were you frightened even to be still hanging around in that hospital afterwards? You couldn't get up and go home, you still had to hang there, like?
No, you're more numb. You're numb rather than frightened, because, like, I mean, I wouldn't have said to any of the nurses that came in then that had happened to me.
Yeah.
So you're numb. And then you have the question of someone in authority, or appearing in authority, in a position of authority whereby you trust. So you automatically trust. You're not meant to question, even though I did question, and I did say, I don't understand what this has got to do with my eye. And he said, this has to be done. And so you've got all these questions, and you're 15. And, you know, to try and get back into a 15-year-old's mind is I can't, like, I have a 15-year-old and I can't get into her mind at times. And I look at her and I go, she was my age when that happened.
Yes.
You know, so it's more numb, it's more shock, and it's more than, you know, the layers of confusion that reigns, silence then that reigns around it because of the nature of it, your age, and it's just not right. It's at your very core, it's very, very wrong. Very, very wrong. So that feeling, that sense of feeling, I never let go of. I knew it was wrong. So I did write to the hospital in 2020 after 37 years.
But after 37 years, yeah.
Yeah.
So you, for all the world, you know, did you pack it away in the box and lock the key and
you pack it away. You do. You need
just
to
say, okay, well, that happened. It wasn't right. Well, what can I do? And you feel the shame. You're questioning it, you know, but life continues, and then it gets to a point where you nearly can't say it out loud because it's nearly past the point, or yeah, but yet you've got to move on. Life keeps going, and you just keep going with it, with this thing that's just back there, as you said, that raises its head every now and again, and you just shove it back down maybe for another while. And
well, you question it.
37 years it's to have that sitting there.
Yeah, but I mean, I do firmly believe that everybody, you know, for me anyway, you come to a place when you're ready to do this, when you're ready to do this. So it's a very individual journey. Everybody's their own journey, and then you do, for some bizarre reason, you're appointed for it to come out, to share it. You know, my sharing it has unburdened me hugely, right or wrong. And I suppose at times it can be tough, you know, because sometimes as we share something that's difficult to share, that's not really often spoken about, that can challenge others and can trigger others. And then sometimes, you know, when you're highlighting something that's wrong or something that's difficult, well, then that's hard then to deal with. Others find that hard to deal with. And then often enough, then some people feel that they might become the problem then because they're voicing the problem, when in actual fact, they're just saying, this happened to me. But that in itself then can cause problems because, oh, wow, then what will we now have to do with this? And, you know, that in itself. So you've got all the stuff that you've got to work through and really get comfortable and grounded in yourself and say, you know, this was not right. And I'm going to say it. And do it for yourself. It's all about doing it for yourself, for that freedom and to share your story so that others can look and say, yes, you know, they may never go public, but if they know somebody else this has happened to, well, that makes a huge difference, you know. Right? Yeah, it's, you know, I've got some wonderful testimonials, like you did the lovely video for me, and then I've got some superb testimonials from one or two people who the book really, at a personal level of abuse, and it's mentioned in one of the testimonials, has helped them. They realised how strong they were as a child by reading the book and coping, and where they are today and what they're doing. So that in itself is what the book was meant to do, was to share with others and to say, you know, you're not on your own, and this is my journey, and take whatever pieces you want.
Yes.
Yeah.
It gives a sense of permission as well to others to let go. Kind of, this is how, you know, what has worked for you. They don't need to come out with a book, but they can look at it in a way that, look, as you said, it's not yours. It was that other person's shame or story. You just happened to carry it for 37 years and now you've given it. It's like, so you kind of nearly give permission to anyone reading it who may have experienced something similar.
To give it back.
To give it back.
To give it back, yeah, because shame's a funny thing, you know, and it can crawl up on any of us. And if when we're vulnerable and something happens to us, you know, either it physically happens to us or verbally happens to us, we can let that in. And I call it like shame. It seeps in. It seeps into the crevices of us, and we're not even aware of it sometimes, how it affects us. But it hugely limits us in what we do and what we say and how we show up, because we get very concerned about other people's thoughts, other people's opinions. instead of getting concerned about our own and doing what we feel in our hearts is right for us, because fundamentally each and every one of us knows exactly what we want to do in our own hearts. So if we kind of go to take ourselves out of the headspace and put ourselves into that heart space, into that feeling, that gut feeling, that instinctive, intuitive part of us, which we all have, and really just be guided and follow that, that will take you to a place of definitely peace of mind and freedom.
Yeah. And do you feel if you had, everything is divine timing really, and the journaling came out and poured out of you and very beautifully, because you've got some really, really beautiful writing in that book. It's very poetic. It's like there's the factual chapters, and then there's just like, you know, heart-centered written pieces that are just, you know, really describing like your inner core, how it really feels and felt for you. And that happened at that time that you were ready to pour it out. Do you feel that if you could have not even written that sooner, but come to that realization sooner, would it have had a bigger difference on your life in those 37 years?
I don't go there. Yeah, I don't, I've never gone there. This book, for whatever reason, is there. You can see it, it's behind me there, it's here. And you know what? You know, on the images that you say, the images I created, the cover of it's a soul painting I got commissioned. But I knew exactly as it came together, and I knew how it wanted to look. I never questioned that. It's that heart out piece again, whereby I knew, you know, when I talk about what happened to me in that moment, and you let that shame seep in, and it's not a nice situation. So I call that the swamp-like figure, and I got an image created to express that, to show like the feelings that you might feel, the heaviness, you know, the pulling down, the anxiety, the suffocating on the chest. So, you know, this had to be done in an image so that people would see the image and go, wow. So, you know, you know, and I knew, I just instinctively knew. It wasn't I hadn't pre-thought, it was just there. So it was as if it was always there, and that was the time for it to come out. So I can't go back on the previous 37 years, other than I'm very blessed. I've got a great husband, a beautiful daughter, and I'm very lucky, and I had a great career. So 2020 was the year for it to, without doubt, be there, because I never thought in 2018 that in 2020 I'd have a book. If somebody said that to me, I'd say, you're right. Yeah, you know, well, it wasn't on the radar. So for anybody who's thinking of writing such a book or whatever, they know in their hearts already. I know if they're listening to us today, they know. So just let your heart lead you and just go do it. Don't get into questioning yourself or looking out don't look out for, and just put your head down, get it done, and then get somebody to help you to put it together to get it to that way. That's what I would say to you, because you know yourself, and none of us can tell ourselves that. We know it ourselves, our own hearts. Yeah.
And it is really true. You know, the heart of coaching, life coaching, all coaching, is that the person has their own answers. And it is because we naturally seek out others to help and give us an answer. What do you think? And what do you think? And get the advice and whatever. But you can do that to a degree, and you can extract an information that, you know, is relevant to help you and support you. But at the core, we always know really deep down what it is we're supposed to do.
Absolutely. And all we need to do then is find the expertise in certain areas then that we need to fine tune it. But the actual heart of it is with you, and it's not with anyone else. And so each of us know, and that causes so much frustration and sadness and regrets in life when we don't listen to our hearts and we're not heart-led, and then we end up just being totally frustrated and sad over it. So it's like, you know, I was compelled to do the book, right, wrong, or indifferent, regardless of the message that's in it, regardless of, you know, what happens. In my heart, was felt compelled that no, I couldn't go through this life and pass away and keep the secret of what happened to me silent. And who would I give the power to then? Well, I'd give it back to him. So I took the power back.
Yes. Yeah.
And that kind of realization, and you know that, yeah, I'm going to write this. I'm going to define this situation. Really helps you to step into who you truly are.
I love that. Take your own power back. You take it back, and you decide.
Absolutely, with anything in life, with any situation,
with anything,
any circumstances, with things that people say, maybe, and they may not mean them intentionally or unintentionally, but they might say something and it's hurtful and it lands with you. And if it lands with you and it seeps in, it's there and it's keeping you back. So it's around that, you know, really getting curious. What is it that I'm afraid of? Why am I not doing that? What's stopping me? And then going back to that place, that heart-centered place within you, that space, you know, that we all at some point every day should get, that nice little silent place, because it's never silent. There's always little things that pop up for us then, these little gems that come forward for us. And if we work from the heart, yeah, just allow that to guide us, you know, and that was never encouraged. It was always head-led.
It's always head-led.
It's
always, you know, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's always analytical, you know, let me just create a spreadsheet here and let me figure it out with numbers and whatever it might be. But it's like, as you said, the gems are always there, but it's allowing the space to actually hear it, to hear those gems speak. Because they're there, they're just waiting for you to be quiet, but we're surrounded by so much noise all the time, so we don't allow it to come through. So just taking even pockets of minutes, I'm talking about sitting for hours, just talking about moments, minutes, scattered throughout your day, that just have such an impact. And Jacqui, how do you feel having, you know, released a book and released your story? So say 2018, 2019, before the journaling started, in your work versus who you are now in your work with the clients. How do you see the difference in you? What has it allowed you to, I suppose, become as a result of being here now, you know, doing that process?
I've always been really lucky in the work I did. I worked in a community organization, so I always worked with people in the progression and development of them. But what I love about what I do now is we really deep dive, and what I love is that, you know, talk about meaningful conversations. You know, to be able just to sit with somebody and somebody to say something to you, you know, that this is how I feel, or this is how I feel about myself. You know, this inner critic that we all have, and so many people have been held back by that inner critic, that little voice in their head. And that's what I love to do, is to work around, you know, your thoughts, to work around your beliefs, because they're not yours. You know, you're not it. And when you have that realization that you're not it, you're separate to them, and that you can choose at any moment to design whatever life you want, whilst you embrace that inner critic, that part of you will come up, it will appear. But it's very different when we're not getting caught up in it and we don't believe we're it. We don't take it as a fact. We just see it and we go, yeah, that's interesting. Where did that come from? And then move forward anyway. So the work is deep, and I love that, because it's just at such a human level, just you and I talking away, two people. Like, that's what life's about, isn't it? It's just
do you feel you're at a deeper level now with clients, with people, than you were before?
I'm at a deeper level with people.
Yeah, because you are in tune with yourself.
Yes, and you connect at a deeper level, and you know, and you're comfortable at connecting at that deeper level. Yeah. So the conversations then in turn are deeper, and they're more honest. And like, you know, when we speak our truth, sure, that gives us well-being. You know, it's when we don't speak our truth that causes all the problems. Let's be honest about it. You know,
yes,
and the conversation.
Absolutely. And you know, from a coaching point of view, being a coach myself, you can only coach somebody as much as you've been, I suppose, developed yourself.
Yes.
So the more you can develop, so it doesn't start, you know, it doesn't stop. You don't just go to coaching school and go, yeah, I know how to do it, it's grand. Yeah. It's not about that. That's the coaching school piece is like one tiny piece of the whole thing. The development of yourself as a person is a huge piece of being, and the more you can go deeper on yourself, the more empowering you can be for your clients.
I truly believe that any of us that work in these areas are coaches or therapists or hypnotherapists. I think that's why we do what we do, because we've done our journey. We see the benefits of it. We see we can shift it. We know we can change it. We can do it, everything, and when we know that, we've got to go and share it with others.
Yeah.
And I think that's what really drives us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's just so powerful that you have taken this other step and so set out this inspiration for others to do the same. Not necessarily write a book, but just to declare and to speak openly and honestly and to not be afraid. That's the key.
Absolutely, yeah, because fear stops so many of us living the lives that we want to live in. And to be able to embrace that fear, dance with it, but move forward and do what you want to do and follow your heart. That's what life's for. We're here for a certain amount of time, and that's it. So live it. Yeah,
fantastic. So what is one final as we wrap up here, one final kind of, I suppose, either statement or something that you'd like to share just to anyone listening here who has either maybe gone through something similar and has just locked it up, or is just in general struggling with some piece of life that just feels stuck? What is
will I read just before we finish then listen to the callings of your soul?
Yes, that would be absolutely lovely.
So it's, I must be obedient to the callings of my soul. So I better get my glasses. To be my truest self, to find calm and fulfillment and peace of mind, I must listen to and be obedient to the callings of my soul. To be whole, to find true meaning, I must listen to and be obedient to the callings of my soul. For if I am not to listen, I will only be a shadow of myself. I must listen to and be obedient to the callings of my soul, to the callings of my truth, to who I am, to what I am, and to what I am here to do. I must rise above my fears, worries, and doubts, to be able to go to that safe place within me that has everything I need. I must listen to and be obedient to the callings of my soul. I must be obedient and trust those callings. Yes, I choose to be obedient and to listen to the callings of my very soul. So at last, I have found myself truly at home. And I love that. And that covers everything you and I have just talked about.
And you wrote that yourself.
Yeah, and you know what? I wonder where that comes from at times.
That just poured out of you.
That poured out of me. And you know what I'd said when I wrote it? I went, I really like that. I remember looking at that going, it's gorgeous. I really like that, as if somebody else
released that out as a little segment in itself.
Yeah, and I remember when it just came out, I went, I like that. Who did that? Oh, I did that. I swear. that's how it happened. It's, and some might say, oh, well, how? It does.
Fabulous.
It does, yeah. And that's what I would say to people. Be obedient to the callings of your soul, your heart. Listen to that. Find the space, sit with it, and allow it to lead you to the life that you're meant to live.
The key there, though, is actually giving yourself space to listen, because somebody might say, well, I don't know what calling my soul is, but you have to give it the space to listen to it. You have to give it the time.
Yes, and if you even sit for 5 minutes and you sit with yourself and you ask yourself, what's the right thing to do now? What's the right thing to do? If you're stuck somewhere or having a situation, give me guidance. And it mightn't come then, right? So this is a good one. This is how it works for me. I go, okay, well, right, just send it to me then at some point, will you please, in the next X amount of days, whatever. And it just comes.
Yeah.
But you mightn't be sitting silent. You'll be somewhere else doing something. Then you go, I know instinctively now what I've got to do, because all of a sudden you feel it.
Yeah.
And that's how it happens.
Yeah. Fabulous. And just asking the question. Yeah, ask it.
Oh, ask. Tell me. Yeah, guide me. I'm not going to ask anymore. I'm going to wait, and you're going to give me the answer and send it to me. And there's, whenever, send it, and the feeling comes. And you instinctively know then this is the right thing to do, right? I'm going to do this rather than that.
Beautiful. Jacqui, it's been just a pleasure. Thank you so much first of all, for sharing your time here today and your story, but also just for writing the book, for finding the strength, for listening to that guidance and that calling of your soul, so that you could journal, so that you could actually put forward a book together and taking that time. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Fiona, and to everybody else that reads it and shares the testimonials for me. And yeah, without any of you continuing to share the message of it, you know what I mean? So thank you, and thanks for having me here today on this.
Absolute pleasure, absolute pleasure. And I wish you all the very best with it on its 1 year anniversary. So if anybody would like to purchase the book, is it Amazon, or where's the best place to find it?
Amazon. You get it on Amazon. I can give you the link. You can pop it in if you want.
Yeah. Send it on to me. We'll attach it to the notes. And also, if anybody wants to chat with you,
yes,
they get in touch with you, how's the best way?
JacquiTaaffe.com.
JacquiTaaffe.com. Perfect.
Just go through there. There's a little place on the website where you can send me a message. It's private, and pop me a message in there. Yeah,
brilliant.
To speak with you. Yeah.
Perfect. And we'll put that at the bottom of the notes on the podcast as well. So thank you, Jacqui, and thank you everybody for listening here today for another wonderful, beautiful Share Your Story with Jacqui Taaffe. So everybody have a great day, and we'll chat to you again soon. Thank you. Bye.